Hello, and welcome back to
Hello.
the Infinite Quality Podcast. I am the Sunny Machine, and this week, again, we've got Snazzy Bastard, Eat Your Meats, and Hylian Pickles. Say hi,
Hello.
friends.
Hi,
Hello.
friends.
Hello, friends.
Yes, I'm going to have to give you a name tag there. I'll give it to you in a second. So, hope everybody's doing well. Thanks for joining us again for this Wednesday podcast. We are live on YouTube and Twitch if you're listening to this on a VOD or on Spotify. So you can always catch us live around 4 p.m. Pacific. This week, we are going to be discussing some of the things that have been going on in the Twitch world that are kind of buzzing around in the circles. Everybody was kind of going crazy with the getting rid of the hosting thing. So I think this is the first, just kind of small thing we're going to talk about at least for a minute.
Small thing.
What do you, I know we've all kind of discussed it a little bit in the in the IQ Discord. There was a discussion going on, and did you guys have any takes on Twitter or anything? You guys all know about the hosting thing, right?
It's it. The hosting was broken for a while. Like this is the natural end result of getting rid of a feature that doesn't really work anyway to begin with, or at least doesn't work as intended. Um, and they got rid of auto host a while ago too. So it's like I'm sure that the percentage of people who actually click off of a host to another channel is probably so minuscule that they don't see the need to keep it. And it probably is because most people tend to go to a streamer that they already know, and if that streamer is hosting somebody else, they generally tend to pick somebody else on their follow list. I mean, I know that I do that. I'm guilty of that myself. So most of the time, when you just have somebody else completely unprompted on the screen, you're perhaps maybe not as interested, unless they're playing a similar game or something to what you were kind of looking for. Generally, I feel most people just fall back onto their followed list. So
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to affect much in the long run. Is basically what I'm saying.
I mean, I think so too. I don't think it's not. It was never really good, and once raids rolled out anyway. Um, I think. Sorry, I'm just getting a name tag set up here. There we go.
It's a nice little printed name tag.
I updated OBS and broke everything. It's my fault, really. Yay!
Yeah,
We have a
so
name.
we have with the raid when they introduced raiding, like there was this confusion that kind of happened on Twitch, and then over the years, everybody kind of just figured out like how not to be confused anymore and like what everything was. And I think that's there's probably a little bit of like people being upset because people got used to the weirdness, like well, there's rating and there's hosting. Also, like if you use Franker Faces plugin or Better Twitch TV, it can add like a button. I know the Franker Faces one does, where you can just like if you're watching someone stream, you just click the button to host them. I don't know. There's something just was nice about that for just community purposes and like a gesture because you're not live and you just want to be like, hey, in case anybody clicks on my channel, I want them to know I'm here hanging out. And I know other streamers did kind of use it to watch like big streaming events where they wanted to discuss the thing that they're watching, like a tournament or game awards or something. And so the streamer would host that event that was happening on a different channel, but then they would use the chat to talk on the main streamer's channel, and that I mean that can be moved to Discord now at this point anyway, right? You could just screen share in Discord and chat, and there's like
Well, people just co-stream those now anyway.
Yeah, I was gonna say I mean, generally, right? The appeal of streaming is that there's a person on screen talking. So I feel like I would be better served, or anyone really would be better served if you just had the thing, whatever you were hosting on in the background, and you were live commenting.
This
on
is
it,
for people who
rather than just chatting about it.
Yeah, this is definitely more of a minority where people maybe they just weren't willing to be live. They didn't want to be live.
No, that's understandable. Just I feel like the amount of people that used it for that purpose is probably
It's so low. Yeah, it's the
So low.
it's the minority. Yeah, of course, those are the people that are going to speak up and on Twitter and stuff about how horrible the change is or whatever.
Yes, yes,
Um,
Twitter's like that.
So I don't hate them getting rid of hosting. I just kind of wish they did it when they launched the rating system, like when rating had initially come out. I wish it just had, because it's always been like broken anyway. You get two alerts. Somebody raids you, you get a host alert, you get a raid alert, and like it's just been a mess since rating has come out. Um, so
Although the way they rolled out rating also wasn't great either. So I mean, like at one point, like if you had less than X amount of viewers, it didn't count. Like, like those were the dark days, right? I think the problem is Twitch just acts very slowly, regardless on what they do.
Yeah.
They're just very slow to act, and that's this is just a consequence of getting rid of things that probably should have, like you said, probably should have gone away when they put rating out, right? But
initially, yeah, I think so. Twitch tends to make these kinds of weird decisions where they change something major, and then they don't fix it until like years later, like with the tags. Like the tag system, it was good, and then they broke it, and now they're back to it being good again.
Well, I'll argue. I don't know how major hosting ever really was, even before rating. To be honest with you,
No.
some people will definitely tell you that it's a discoverability tool, but it's really not.
No, it's not.
It's a gesture for you that
Yeah.
you can do for somebody. But
That's the only part I'm gonna miss. 100%. I liked being able to. I don't watch a lot of streams and interact with a lot of streams, but when I do, I like to actually kind of be there and show as much support as I can. So it feels kind of nice to click the host button.
You can always just fire up your stream and raid with one viewer.
Yeah,
You
it's
can always
true.
do that.
It's true, but I don't know.
That's awkward.
Yeah, yeah, that is awkward. It's like raiding.
very awkward.
How the word raid kind of implies you're bringing people other than yourself there.
That's something you do for a gag, like just
Yeah.
Troll rating. I
troll
love
raiding.
that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Careful, that'll get you banned on Twitch, right? It'll be
Yes.
a hate raid or something.
I think the biggest just thing that is going away with the hosting going away is there's no gesture. Like that gesture is now gone to be like, hey, I'm here. I'm hanging out, and if anybody happens to click on my channel, then they'll know where I'm at, kind of thing. That could obviously move, but you don't want to I guess you could just post it in Discord. I think Discord is like the right place to do most of the stuff anyway. So
Or shout outs kind of come into play. I think everyone's more utilizing a shout out sort of thing when you start interacting with the chat. If it's someone that they know, they'll just shout you out.
Yeah, and also like honestly, like if you want to do a gesture for a streamer, like chat with them. Like,
Yeah,
say something
yeah.
in their chat. Like
That's true.
That's usually way more meaningful anyway than hosting with
Yeah.
somebody. Like so,
yeah,
interact with the stream in a
100%.
positive way.
100%. True. Yeah, so the hosting thing, there's probably not a whole lot to say, but I just thought people should be aware, and we should maybe bring it up at the beginning here, just kind of.
I think the bottom line is don't fall for the Twitter hype. Like there's gonna be a lot of people who are gonna be like, this is the end of the world. The guys with the signs outside, the end is nigh. Like it's not. It's really not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Things will
anticipate
continue the
any.
same way they were.
Yeah, I don't see any actual impact on pretty much anybody.
No, I agree.
If anything, it might drive people to interact with streams
More?
more like in a direct manner rather than in a passive manner, because you won't
Yeah.
have hosting, right? So
Well, I think like the gesture of a host just to say I'm here is just a more disruptive lurk.
Yeah, that's true.
People
That's
do
true. It can be.
exclamation
It
alert.
can be. That's a good way. It's a good point.
all right,
Yeah.
Pickles, hit me with your anti exclamation lurk command rant.
True.
Okay.
True.
Well, if you do exclamation lurk, you're not lurking. You're saying hello.
True.
Like it's by
Yeah.
nature the opposite of a lurk.
Yeah, I don't like those commands.
I disagree because I think it just tells someone, hey, I'm here for you and I'm visiting. Hello, but I may not be able to talk.
But also, bye.
Snazzy told me to give him my anti lurk.
Yeah.
so.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't like the exclamation point lurk commands. I don't mind when people say, "Yeah, I'm watching, but I can't. I have to lurk or something." And I usually tell people, that I'm gonna go to lurk when I have to like get up and walk away, especially if I've been interacting with the streamer for a while, because I don't tend to just like say hi and then nothing else. I'll be like, hey, how's it going? Oh, your mic sounds good today, or like, I'll actually interact with the streamer for a bit more than just one or I don't know. So then I always feel like I have to say, hey, I'm going to lurk.
Truthfully, I don't really mind the lurk command. I just don't use it on my stream.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I understand.
I think the lurk command can get a little bit of annoying though if somebody never talks and that's the only thing they ever do is say that. They come in, type exclamation point lurk, and then that's it. That's your whole relationship with that viewer. That's where it can get a little bit, I don't know.
I mean, it's
strange.
not any more disruptive than like streamers who have like a redeem to like fart noises. Like
I think it's more annoying when somebody like
spams it, if anything, or like keeps
just
doing it over and
shows
over.
up and like says hi
And that's
and
it.
then never responds.
Nothing else. Yeah. yeah. That's also pretty bad. Yeah, it's true.
But I don't know. I also don't really. I don't care a whole lot.
Try not to care.
People,
Yeah.
people do what they do.
Yeah, that's true. It's hard though. You can tell people not to care, but they're gonna care anyway. So, yeah.
Well, and I think that's part of it. Is like, and the whole thing with hosting, right? You need to learn to not take these things personally. You need to.
How do you do that? Let's turn the podcast into an episode about that. How do you do that, Snazzy?
I don't know, man. Self-confidence. I don't have. If you figure it out, let me know.
How to not take things personally?
Yeah.
I mean,
Don't.
this kind of goes into the next topic anyway.
Just don't.
Just
don't. Just stop.
choose life.
I don't know.
I mean, well, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
think
know.
It's
Is the right
easy.
answer.
It's easy to take things personally, but
It is.
you have to try and give everybody the same benefit of the doubt that they got stuff going on in their life as much as you have in your life, or
Yep.
more.
Yeah.
So like, it just is what it is.
I don't know. I
And that's
tend.
kind of how I look at it.
But to Sonny's point, like some people are always gonna, like you said, some people are just gonna do that, right? Their only interaction is gonna be a command that they like on your stream, and they'll use the command, and that's it, right? And that's their only interaction, right? Or they'll come in and say a joke or something, and then that'll be the only thing they say. Some people just that's how they interact with streams.
True.
That's just how they do.
So lower your expectations or get rid of them entirely, which I think is the real trick, because you really have to try to nail down what your expectations are in the first place. Oh, by the way, anybody who's listening to this, like, and it's not like way in the past, Stream Elements has been really buggy with like
Way in the past.
yeah, Stream Elements recently has been really buggy, showing like messages multiple times in chat. So if you guys are having that, they're working on it. But like I'm saying that because we just had a chat alert go off, and thank you so much for the raid. We're talking about hosting and chat commands
Talking
right
about not being able to host this channel very soon.
now. Yeah.
Oh no.
So the now I lost what I was saying. Does it matter? No.
I think the takeaway should be like, and this this affects both rating, hosting, and also like just general chat behavior. Is you can't control how people behave. You can nudge them in a direction by either providing or not providing certain outlets for them to interact the stream with. But at the end of the day, right? If somebody's gonna go into Meet the Stream and do nothing but redeem, hug Bob Ross or something, like. That's that one person's jam, right?
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna do.
It's true. Somebody in chat said it's hard not to take comments in chat personally because it's kind of personal in a lot of aspects, and like that's where it's like the expectations. You want to figure out before you're live what your expectations really should be and what they are, and try to get them maybe realigned. Your point of view while you're live is super important, because if your expectation is people showing up and liking you and hanging out with you and stuff, and people barely talk, and you're playing a mind game with yourself. You're setting yourself up for being disappointed, basically. But instead, Like I used to tell people that would get really personal, they'd take chat really personally. My advice would be like, you don't need chat, chat needs you. You know, you guys have probably heard me say this before. Um, like you need to not need chat. Chatting should not be like something that you need. People should need you. The chat should need you to be there, more than you need chat to be there. And
Or at least you don't need specific people in chat. That's what I'm. The bigger thing is you can't take for granted that the same people who show up like on one night are going to show up every night you stream. Especially
100.
if you stream,
Yeah.
3, 4, 5. If you're doing it full time, 6 nights a week, right? It's impossible for those same people to show up every time, right? And then viewer drop off is a thing. People get bored and find other places to hang out. You kind of have to at any time be ready to just interact with an entirely different set of people.
Yeah.
And when you're interacting with so many people on sometimes on a daily basis, that you are inevitably going to come across people who are jerks. You're going to come across people who don't like you. You're going to come across people who watch you solely because they want to make you uncomfortable, and they'll say stuff solely because they want to see you sweat, right? Like,
Yeah.
and that's where like not taking those things personally comes in. Is like I hate it when people say grow skin, grow a harder skin, but it is kind of that. You do have to like not let every single comment get to you, right? You can't let it
Yeah.
destabilize you.
True.
You got to be able to
Like-
run the show. You're the captain.
Yeah.
you gotta
Yeah, that's
you gotta
true
steer
in the
the
real
ship.
world too.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to have certain boundaries, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like, there's going to be people that hate watch things or hate consume, right? It's just-
Hate consume.
no,
I like that.
know people personally
Yeah.
that I am convinced that they literally just listen to music or watch anime or do whatever just to pick the things they don't like about it, and that's their entertainment. But as long as they're doing it in a way that's respectful and not like just being mean towards you, who cares?
Some
Like,
people are just perpetually unhappy and will go
Yeah.
out of their way
People-
to tell you about it.
People bond over things they hate more than things they like.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think it hits community streamers harder, the ones that have like a tight community. They know their viewers very well, no matter what that number is. They don't get a lot of like new viewers, but they have like a core viewership, and the stream feels very much the same for a while, and then someone comes in to disrupt that flow, and it's like you're not used to it. You're like you're live in your bedroom or something, and you feel like you're hanging out with your friends. It's not like you took your guitar out on the street and strangers are walking by. You don't feel that. And you're not really reminded that that's kind of the situation until negative things happen. And then your mind has to like kind of process this negative moment. Streaming is complicated in this way in that you don't see the stranger judging you. You're not like you can't read people's minds. There could be 100 people actually watching your stream that are like, making faces and laughing about you and being negative about you, and you would never know it. But then as soon as somebody types it in the chat, it's also like there was something I forget who it was. I probably shouldn't even bring this up because I can't remember the specifics. But there was a comedian
But let's do
who
it.
was talking about. I think it was Louis C.K. He was talking about how Twitter is just like people like just talk. It's just talk. This is how people talk. People will they'll go to a comedy show, and then they'll go to the bar with their friends and be like, that was so stupid, I hated that show. It's just talk. They don't really mean it. They just want to seem cool in front of their friends. But now like they're doing that on Twitter. Like people will do the same kind of thing and be like, this is so stupid, and it's just talk. It's
I
not
think
like
it's kind of like what Pickles was saying. People bond people bond over, basically ragging on something a lot more easily than being positive about something, right?
True.
Like when you see some really terrible video game or terrible play of a video game, it's a lot easier to like as a group to laugh at that than it is to like find positives in it. For at least
Yeah.
for most people. I'm not saying that for everyone. Obviously, everybody's different, but like they're definitely and that's why comedy shows work, right? That's why like people getting roasted at comedy shows is funny because
Yeah.
it's easier to laugh at somebody
yeah.
than to
think about it this
have
way,
some other
right?
interactions.
If you think of something that you really care about, like if you're like, oh my gosh, I love the Lion King film, right? Is it going to hurt you more for someone to like say that they don't like it, or if you don't like it or hate the Lion King and someone's like, "Well, I kind of like it." It doesn't feel as hurtful, right? To have that disagreement in the other direction. So I think people are more open with sharing their dislikes because it's less hurtful if someone disagrees with you about something you don't like versus you like. Sounds like a weird concept.
I don't know.
But I do believe it's true.
This is a good framework to have this discussion around. So, I think it actually hits differently if you're in
Yeah.
person. Like if you're talking with somebody in the room or like on Discord or something, and you disagree on The Lion King. Somebody you're like, I love The Lion King, it's my favorite, and someone's like, I hate that movie. It doesn't feel as bad, but when it's in chat, it can come off like your mind. Though you have to read the words. You don't hear the person's inflection. You don't. All you get is like words, and then you have to like kind of do this weird interpretation thing in your head of what the person said and how they meant it, and it can maybe hit differently in your own mind reading it from like chat or on Twitter, and make you feel like this person. If they were in the room with you, it would have just come off as like, I don't really like that movie very much. This is kind of, I think
There's
it's kind of a
there's
stupid
no
movie.
nuance to
Yeah.
chat, right?
Whereas you read it on Twitter and you're like, oh, this person hates my favorite thing, and you take it personally because it's words instead of like an actual human voice.
But again, that's the thing though. Like if your like or dislike of something is genuine, it shouldn't then really matter what anybody else thinks, right? If you for some reason just
true.
absolutely hate The Lion King, that's the shittiest thing in existence. Somebody liking that movie shouldn't then shouldn't break down your whole worldview about that movie
it
just
hits-
because somebody liked it.
I just think chat can hit differently because you have to hear it in your own voice in your head. So it's almost like you're saying it as that person, and so
Yeah.
the psychology behind it is different than hearing someone else say it out loud. So chat can like have a really negative impact on you in a moment because you read it, it goes into your brain and it's in your head and you're saying it. You're not like
So what you're saying is, if you're just full of self-loathing already, it'll just bounce right off of you.
maybe yeah.
I mean,
Fragile
kinda, yeah.
sense of worth. Your fragile sense of worth is invested in these outward things that you've decided. I don't identify as my own individual person. I identify as a Dark Souls lover. That is who I am.
Oh yeah, okay,
If someone comes in and poops on it, right?
Yeah.
You're actually shattering your own identity.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Right? And
No,
that's a
true.
whole other
Yeah.
subject.
Yeah.
But it's true. A lot of people will do that.
Yep.
Getting attached to any one thing like that is probably unhealthy, right?
Yeah.
It's good to have more than one interest.
Uh-oh,
It's good
identity
to-
politics. Let's not.
No, but it's good to, and this is true of a Twitch stream as well. Like it's good to do different things. It's good to try different things. It's good to experiment with things because like if you at the end of the day, if you're just doing the same thing over and over, like you said earlier, you get into the sort of familiarity, like a routine, right? And somebody comes in and shatters it, and then all of a sudden you have no idea what you're doing anymore because you're not used to doing the one thing that you always do because that's been disrupted, right? But if you do more things and you experiment with your stream and experiment with your content, like it's easier to swap between. It's easier to then handle sudden changes, right? Because you're already doing that. You're already practicing that ability to not be just rooted to one spot like all the time.
Yeah. Okay, so let's use this as a moment. I'm just going to really quickly say OBS 28 came out, and it is a massive risk and time investment to update.
Let me tell you a
Case in
thing about
point,
OBS 20.
Normally we have our podcast set up here where we do screen shares using OBS and the cameras to get a higher quality. As you can notice, Pickle, Snazzy, and myself have pretty high quality camera image, and Eat Your Meats is like a potato 90% of the time.
Excuse me.
And she shouldn't look like that, but that's because she had to hook her camera straight into Discord and just like do camera to Discord share. And this is what the quality difference is. If you just hook, doesn't matter how good your camera is, for some reason, Discord will just set it to like a super low resolution.
Discord compression is a thing. It's ridiculous.
I have a video on how to do what we do on the IQ YouTube channel if anybody's interested in getting like higher quality screen shares if you're doing podcasts or something, and you can include things like our name tags and things like that.
But so the bottom line, though, is that we're trying to tell you is don't update to
Well,
OBS
no,
28.
not don't update. I updated. I'm using
Never
it now. I use
Never.
my system's very complicated. There are some caveats with updating. You have to make sure all of your plugins, most of them, are updated and working, and compatible with version 28. And there are beta and alpha versions of plugins, so try those and try your luck. If you're using Streamer.bot, which I know a lot of you are, you're going to have to use the 4.9 compatibility plugin for WebSocket for StreamerBot to work. Otherwise, StreamerBot is not going to work. But there is a plugin that will bring back functionality. So anyway, yeah, version of OBS 28 came out. It's it's a thing. There's plenty of YouTubers going over that. If you guys just go on YouTube and you're interested about the changes there. But so our main topic for today is actually supposed to be about, and we've hit on it a little bit. Streamers burning out. This is actually, there's a lot of videos coming out right now on YouTube about, because there's some things going on. There's streamers. Pokimane made a video recently where she's like, verbalized her frustrations with streaming and the difficulties. And I think the longer you stream, the more successful you are, the more you are going to have to be willing to deal with the circumstances of what it's like to be a live streamer. Just like anything. We were kind of comparing it before we started to, Eat Your Meats was comparing it to working at a restaurant in a lot of ways. And I think if you worked at a restaurant serving for 20 years, you would be exhausted. And after a certain amount of time, it takes a certain kind of person to be able to deal with being a full-time streamer for 10 to 20 years.
But it's also, it's not just that it just takes a certain kind of person. It's also like a lot of what I think a lot of people miss is that if streaming for you is a full-time gig, right? If that's what you're trying to do, if that's how you're paying the bills, right? You do then have to treat it as a job, right?
Yeah.
And that includes knowing when to stop, knowing when to be like, okay, I have done my work for the day. I need to go do something else that isn't work.
Work-life balance, yeah.
Work-life balance, but for a lot of people, because they think like, oh, streaming is so much fun, and streaming is this thing I can do from home, they kind of lose sight that it is, for some people, a job. And if you try to, they always say, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. That's absolute baloney. You're still
Such a
working.
lie.
You're still working, and you need to balance not working with that, right?
And there's
that's
always
where a lot
parts-
of people fall in that pitfall.
There's always parts and pieces to every job there's stuff you don't want to do. Like you can be in love with, whatever, crocheting, but if you want to turn that into a job, you have to also be willing to package and ship, and maybe you don't love that part of the job. And so there's always some part of work that is like it's going to wear on you a little bit.
That's why it's work.
Yeah. So
When you're your own boss, nobody can tell you to clock off.
that's a hard part. I think a lot.
Fuck off.
Yeah. And a lot of
Oh,
these
I like
streamers feel pressured, like these massively top streamers, which is what people want to be, right? A lot of people want to be the next big streamer, but they all feel really pressured to stream for 8, sometimes 16 hours, ridiculous amounts of time. They're streaming way more than you would full time. Yeah, they're making a lot of money, but they don't feel like it's safe necessarily to turn their stream off, and that it's always a risk when they're just to go to bed or something. And I don't know that everybody is built to be that way, and I don't know how sustainable it is long term.
I think that's any entertainment industry in general is going to be like that.
No, I disagree.
Right? Well, listen, if you're an actor and you decide to stop acting because you
Yeah,
don't
but
wanna make
actors
movies
get
for a while
9 months break.
That's true.
They
That's
get
what
a
I'm saying.
huge break.
That's what I'm saying. They've figured that part out better than streamers
Yeah,
have.
yeah.
But
Well,
I'm
the
saying
thing-
if you're
They
an
also
actor
have
and you
unions and guilds.
Yeah.
they have
Yeah.
support. Yeah, they have a
Force that kind of
structure.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, we always talk about how the barrier of entry to streaming is so low. It makes it so it's hard to not turn everything into something for people to consume.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You do anything and you're like, I could be streaming this. Playing
Yeah.
games for yourself, don't really do. because you're like, I could just stream it and then I,
Oh, even worse.
have something for
You
it.
won't play a game because you want to stream it.
Right.
Oh, that's even worse. I have a pile of games that I'm like, I would play, but I should save it for stream.
I could save it.
Yeah,
I could. I could.
That's tough. That's a weird part of this job. Is like, we used to play games because we wanted to.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like you have to draw that balance, right? You have to, because the other thing is a lot of people who, up to a certain point, and even some of the bigger streamers, it's not just the time that you spend in front of the camera, it's also all the other things that go around that, right?
Right.
Setting up, breaking down, figuring out what to play, making commands, doing overlays, all that other stuff that happens off screen that makes the on-screen stuff function, right?
Yeah.
That takes time too.
Yeah.
So if you're streaming for 8 hours and then you spend another 4 hours fine-tuning the stream afterwards, that's 12 hours of work.
Yep.
But they'll rationalize it with, well, I only streamed for 8 hours. Okay, so what did you do with all the other time in the day that you had? Oh, I worked on my stream. I'm like, okay, so you were working all day is what you're telling me.
And I think it should be okay to be a streamer who only streams for 2 hours or 3 hours at a time.
Yeah,
Well, and
absolutely.
I would argue too. So the issue that we run into is people don't really talk about how so many jobs function the same way as this, right? So we think about people who maybe have a corporate job where they clock in, they work 9 to 5, and they clock out, right? And that's like what they do. But there are so many professions that have these kind of short periods of game time with so much other prep work, whether that means going to college for 8 years, whether that
Sure.
means preparing a lecture for 10 hours to deliver 1 hour of content, right? Whether that means doing continuing education and looking up stuff for a patient that you're taking care of just to see them for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
We are thinking about all these front-facing things and not realizing that this is true for so many professions.
Yeah.
You're back to restaurants, right? People in the restaurant industry, they're doing so much prep work before the restaurants even open, before the dishes are even made. So I'm super potato right now. I'm looking at my camera. I'm like,
Discord, man.
pixelated.
Yeah.
Meats is just
It's
one big
feeling my
pixel, yeah.
anger. But people, there are very few jobs that have that like non-factory type of situation that are at face value just the thing that you're showing other people. There's so much background work for so many jobs.
Yeah.
The challenge with streaming is people don't really understand that as well, and I think people are starting to understand it better, but it's also that you tend to not have a lot of support, right? There's
Yeah.
not a lot of people there to help you set stuff up or to help edit videos or to help choose
Yeah.
games. Right. So it feels a lot more isolated. And that
The-
I think can contribute a bit more to burnout because you're so isolated
Yeah.
in the prep time to go time.
The same low barrier to entry also makes it there's no barrier to overdoing it, right? There's no barriers. It's you can do whatever you want. But like the pressure to, especially with bigger streamers, right? They feel like they need to be live all the time. That's 100%. That's exactly the same pressure that some people feel. Like if you're working in a perhaps less than hospitable environment, like let's say you're doing an office work, and your boss
Overtime.
Is
Be a
not even
team
overtime.
player.
There's literally times when your boss might be like, hey, stay an extra hour. They won't pay you for that hour. It's like, oh, we need to finish
Yeah.
this.
Non-paid overtime. Yeah.
There's pressure to like Meat said, like, oh, be a team player. Help the team. It's like, no. Like,
Yeah.
if you wouldn't put up with that in like an office environment, why would you put up with it in a streaming environment, right? Why would you put up with feeling pressure to do more than you're capable or more than you're comfortable, right?
Yeah,
'Cause
But
it's
that's the
easier to
reality
hurt
for a lot of people.
yourself. It's easier to hurt yourself than let other people hurt you.
That's also true.
If you're abusing yourself, it doesn't feel like abuse.
Oh boy.
Well, like if you have like a splinter or something and you need to like get it out with like a pin, it's easier for you to do it yourself than have somebody go in with the pin.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah.
It doesn't hurt as bad. I don't know if that's a common thing, but we had to do that a lot
Sure,
growing
yes.
up.
You grew up a lot. You grew up around a lot of
splinters,
splinters.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I think where it's not very different from other jobs but there, what we don't realize is it's not commonly understood that it's like the pitfalls. People look at streaming and streamers and they think, I can do that. That seems easy. All I got to do is sit there and play video games. They don't
Yeah.
see.
Oh yeah. No.
It'd be like
Oh,
seeing
yeah.
a restaurant worker counting their tips or a bar worker counting their tips at the end of the day, and then thinking, I could make that much money doing that, and like without you don't really have the full context. And I think even streamers themselves, big streamers themselves, they got big, they blew up. They don't really know what the pitfalls were going to be. They had no foreknowledge. This is like such a brand new thing. We don't know what streaming looks like when you do it for 10 years straight. We have there's no like case studies on this, and it's not like anybody can look at anything that anybody else has gone through. This is like a brand new thing in the world.
And there's also like there's no streamer unions. There's no support system to keep people going, right? And that yes, that contributes to an easier, like you said, low barrier to entry. But then once you're here, you're on your own, right? Once you're streaming, you're on your own for the most part, unless you're lucky enough to have a core group that works with you. But like, so I think honestly more than anything, that's what streamers lack is just like you said, like awareness, right? That there are these things that on the surface can seem like helpful and can seem like the right thing to do, but are actually harmful and can lead you to burnout really quickly.
Yeah, and we've all seen streamers of all sizes burn out. Not
Oh, yeah.
just like big streamers, streamers at all size. We've seen them. They go on Twitter and they're like, "I'm sorry, guys, I really have to take a break. I wasn't expecting to have to take a break, and I just need to do it for my mental health, and I'll be back soon, I promise." And all of this, like, I see those tweets like every week on Twitter. Like people are always apologizing for needing to take a break, and that shouldn't even be an apology. Hey guys, I'm gonna take a week off. I'll see you next week. That should be it, right? Like,
Right. We can't call it vacations, right? Because for some reason, I feel like streamers very rarely say, like, I'm just taking vacation from streaming. We
I
all
say
say,
it all the
I'm
time.
taking a break. It's like, but just take a vacation. Take time
Yeah.
off. Do what you
I-
need to do.
I call that all the time. When I'm away from stream for a while, I'll be like, yeah, I'm on vacation. Like I'm out doing other things
Yeah.
other than streaming. It's like,
And if we
despite
treated it- if we treated it that way, I think it would be less. It seemed less dramatic and like less of an issue. And you shouldn't be waiting to have this burnout moment to take a break.
well, like even in workers in other fields have vacations, right? And yeah, so sometimes you'll be in an environment where your management will be hostile to you wanting to take time off, but at the same time, in most places, you are guaranteed some amount of time off.
Oh, there's
right?
holidays.
And there's
full
holidays
on
and all
3-day
that other
weekends
stuff,
and
yeah.
stuff for people, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
But there's still
You have to
people
think
who
about
will
things-
pressure you to work that time anyway.
Yeah,
So-
but there's also things like medical leave, family leave. Like
Yeah.
there's all these pieces that you really have to take care of. And like I'm someone who's been needing to do that recently for medical issues, for just life balance issues. And yeah, it took a lot to just kind of let go of that, right? To just be like, this is what I need if I want to continue long term being able to stream. I need to give myself space to take care of myself. And I know some of the other people in this podcast have had to do that too. And I think
Oh,
it was
yeah.
the best decision ever because instead of me just like rage quitting or just being completely over it, it's tempered the situation so that I still find joy in doing it, but I've let go of that self kind of flagellation and that like guilt and that fear of being like, well, I'm not doing what's expected of me because it's not sustainable for people. It's not.
Well, one of
I
the
think like what Pickle said, don't be afraid to play a video game for you. You don't have to show everybody everything you're playing. Play a video game just for you once.
One of the things
Yeah,
you guys
like-
mentioned that was, I think, is key is that you also have chosen to surround yourself, even though you're not massive streamers or whatever, you've chosen to, for instance, work with me so that you have somebody you can talk to when things go wrong, and like you're not alone in what you're doing. And I think that's actually really important. The most successful YouTubers, all have like teams that they've built around their content. They hire editors. They don't do everything themselves, and I think there's this temptation in streaming to want to do everything yourself. I know there is because I talk to streamers who need help, and they don't even think about working with me even when I offer it. Streamers who have hundreds of viewers that things break and they want a website and they want help. And then I'm like, I try to come in and be like, hey, actually, I provide these kinds of services for streamers. Do you want to work together? Yeah, I don't know if I need to do that right now. It's like, I think it's actually probably a good idea not to do streaming entirely alone, unless you are like really tech savvy and you really can do everything by yourself. And even then, it's kind of like you're asking yourself to get burned out because streaming is
For most
how many
people,
jobs?
most people see the stream as sort of like an extension of themselves, right? And it's a personal thing, right? And it can be difficult for somebody to
Share it.
let other people in and be like, okay, and like, oh, I'm gonna relinquish this bit of control to somebody else, right? That can be a difficult thing if you're used to you being the product.
And you could be a successful streamer by yourself. It is possible, but
But
it's going to be rough, I think, at times if you're
everything
all
is
alone.
possible, right? But like, what are the chances? Like, winning the lottery is possible,
Yeah.
for sure, but doesn't mean it'll happen.
I think it's difficult to be someone who is tech savvy, computer savvy, good at games or creating that content, entertaining, right, creative, like being all of those things. That's a hard ask.
Yeah, it
There's
is.
not a lot of people that can do all those things well.
Yeah.
So you got to
No,
find your
absolutely.
strengths.
Yeah.
And the streamers I know that are all doing like exceptionally well tend to struggle in a lot of those areas. They're actually just really good at being on camera. They're really personable, but they suck at computers. And they're hitting me up in DMs like, this is broken, this isn't working, this, and they're a good streamer, but they do not know how to produce a stream.
Well, and that's like like when you look at like a more sort of normalized job process, right? You have like you'll have a department that does sales, but that'll be a different department than one that does advertising. That'll be a different department from the one that does accounting, right? You split people up into roles so that one person doesn't have to do everything, right?
Yeah.
And that's the key to success.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think just jumping into streaming, expecting it to go well, is a hard ask, and like even if you're good at it, it could take. You could also be a really good streamer. You could be great on camera. You could have all the skills, and just nobody watches, and that could be mentally draining too. That can be difficult. I mean, there's these really big streamers who are burning out, and they have thousands of viewers.
Well, like we talked about earlier about like not taking things personally, right? Like you could like it's very easy that like let's say you have a week of really successful streams, right? You're 20, 30, 40 people above your average. And then all of a sudden the next week, you plop back down and all like you start thinking, "Hey, what's wrong?" Now imagine that on a bigger scale where you literally have swings of thousands of viewers, right? Back of either up or down, right? Like that's it's stressful. As much as we say like don't take things personally, like yeah, that's very difficult not to do.
Yeah.
If one day you're streaming and you have 100 people watching you, and then the next day there's 20, right? Your brain's naturally going to panic and be like, why is this a thing? Even though it's most likely something not under your control, right? Yeah. Sometimes it's just that's how it is, but it's hard to separate your brain from that situation.
So have you guys felt burnout yourself?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But that's because I'm like a workaholic.
It's true.
Streaming related burnout?
Not even just streaming.
For me, it's just like an overall creative burnout because I'm trying to do like 3 different major creative outlets at once, and
I know
one of
the
them
feel.
starts to take precedent, and the other
I don't know how
ones,
Pickles does
I
it.
don't feel
I'm
like
telling
it.
you.
You can't do them all at once. Like,
Yeah.
you focus on music for a while, and then you shift to art, and then like I do the same thing. Yeah.
I've peeked behind the scenes. Pickles has probably the hardest work ethic out of all of us. I'm not gonna lie.
What about you, Meets? Burnout?
Not from streaming. Honestly, just like regular life burnout. I honestly streaming has been my sacred thing which sounds weird because it's the first thing I'll stop. I'll cancel a stream like the first thing. because it's sacred to me. I don't know if that seems weird,
No,
but like
absolutely.
You try and protect it, which is good.
I'm protecting it. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
my safe little like comfy cushion. I want it to be something that I enjoy every time I do it. So I've actually worked really hard to protect that.
Yeah, don't
Probably
bring
to the
negative
detriment
energy,
of
yeah.
so many things, but it as long as it's giving me satisfaction, I think, I have the typical pandemic burnout of being a mom with a full-time job that didn't end because I'm essential and had to change so many
Yeah.
things about what I did and took care of my kids and like, just so many things that like life in general has been very
Stressful.
exhausting. So learning how to give yourself grace and realize that we're all in this together and making sure that there are things that you do every day that brings you joy to help balance things, I think has been really, really helpful. But you will still hear me say sometimes like, oh, I freaking hate computers. Why do I do this? I don't want to do this. But typically, that's a very short-lived sensation that I'm able to kind of get through. And the day that like I truly don't like doing this anymore is going to be a really sad day for me.
Yeah, yeah. I hope it doesn't come.
And like we said, like there's parts of even things you like, right, that you may dislike. For example, right, setting up streams, fighting OBS on a daily basis, fighting my camera on a daily basis, right? That's the part of all this that I dislike, right?
Yeah.
Why do I put up with having to adjust my crappy camera all the time because it keeps resetting its settings, or OBS does some new that just messed everything up? It's because like there is that reward at the end of it, but it doesn't mean that I like the entire process, right?
Yeah,
There are things I like and things I don't like.
yeah.
Well, like I've been working on music a lot lately, and last night I spent like 3 or 4 hours making a MIDI drum sample kit, and now I don't even want to use it.
I never want to hear it again.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, that's the way creativity goes, though. Is like you kind of have to be willing to spend a bunch of time just in the process, because the process of trying to figure things out is what you take with you to the next thing when you're working on that. It's not so much the end, what you end up with. It's like the skill of fiddling. And I find a lot of streamers who aren't willing to fiddle or try things with they're not going to get very far. You need to be willing. I find a lot of people aren't willing to try things because they're afraid it's going to break, but you also need to be able to fix things when they break, and you can't be afraid of breaking it. And like, this is just part of the process, Like, you got to be willing to kind of take some risks, especially with things like music and streaming. Try new things with your stream. It's very complicated because at the same time you want to get the things that you never need to mess with, like, stable, right? like your audio. You really want your audio to be as absolutely stable as possible for streaming, right? You want to have the flexibility of being able to maybe adjust things with a soundboard or whatever. You may not want to go in and fiddle too much with your audio, but you do want to get it to where it's really good and it's kind of nailed down and you don't need to fiddle with it anymore. But at the same time, there are areas of your stream where it's like, maybe you should fiddle with your alerts, right? Like, if you just like slap the Streamlabs OBS alerts as a browser source in OBS, or using slobs, and you never go into the Streamlabs settings or stream elements and change the color or the GIF of the alert, and it's just that basic. How many times have you guys seen that, like, zombie, the stream elements, like, or whatever, or like the dolphin,
The GIF
or
of the
whatever?
walking zombie, and then it
I
has,
call
like, the
them dumb.
default turquoise
Yeah,
in
just
the text.
just that ugly green font, and on like so many different streams. It's like you didn't even do anything to like express your personality or your own creativity through your alerts. I've seen it on massive streams. And at that point, I'm like, well, now you can't change it because it's kind of
It's
like
a meme.
Yeah.
It's a meme at that point.
Yeah.
But you have to know when to retire a meme, right? This is helpful advice that I give any streamer. Know when a bit has gone too far. Know when a joke is dead. Like,
Oh,
learn
true.
to see dead jokes and like take them out to pasture or take them behind the shed or whatever you need to do. Like, learn to like not hang on to a meme forever, okay?
And a
Like,
lot of
I'm
times,
guilty of
the
that too.
easy
I'm guilty of this
barometer-
myself.
The easy barometer for when a joke is dead is if it's on Family Guy, if it's on Facebook, or if it's on Borderlands.
I've seen like
Yep.
streamers who have like their own inside joke, and I've been to their stream a bunch, and I still don't understand the context for the inside joke, and they constantly use the joke, and I'm like, does anybody even get this joke? Like, I don't get it. I don't like. Okay, cool.
But if a joke is funny to you though, I mean, feel free. Sometimes there is comedy in beating a dead horse, as they say, right? So
I guess. I don't
Well,
know.
like in comedy, it's like the rule of 3, the rule of 9, and the rule of 93. Like it's funny 3 times, and then it's not funny like 5 times, but then it's funny if you do it 9 times. And then it's not funny after that until you do it like
93.
1,000
93
times.
times.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now my
Loop
brain
spectrum.
hurts. What?
Math.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I don't know. And also like humor's a hard one for streaming because I've seen people use their humor like they'll have like one person in chat react and it's always that one person that's laughing at the joke but nobody else thinks what you're doing is funny at all. And so you get like
Well-
this positive reinforcement from one person and like
It's like having a pre-recorded rim shot, right? Like, like, yeah, it's funny, but like after a while you start really getting really tired
I
of
wish I
hearing that
had
noise.
one for that moment.
We need
But,
just a laugh track or like a sitcom clapping
yeah,
background
clap, yeah.
sound, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like that doesn't just apply to comedy either. Like that's like it like one of the skills, right? Because streaming is a skill. You could be talented at it, but you still need to work at it. One of the skills is seeing when something on your stream has gone stale, right? When it's no longer, I hate to borrow a phrase, does it spark joy, right? Like, are you getting something out of this,
Onto
right?
our stream.
Yeah. Like, it might be time to swap or change or cut that thing out if it's not doing what you wanted to do. But some people will be like, oh, I don't want to change this because it's part of the stream, history, I guess. I don't know what a good word for it would be like, but like sometimes you gotta change things on the fly.
I think this is an important point, and it's relevant to burnout because I think this is part of how you keep from burning out. Is that you want to keep things fresh for yourself, for your audience. Yep. You want to have breaks. A lot of times, not doing something is how you figure out how to solve your problem too. Right? Like, how many times have you gotten in the shower or in the bed and then the answer comes to you, right? You finally shut down for the day. You're not thinking about the thing anymore. And then you realize how to fix it, right? Sometimes you just need to be in the break because your brain is, just because you're not thinking about it in the foreground, your brain's still working on that stuff in the background. And
Wait, you guys can shut off your brain when you go to sleep?
No, I don't know what he's talking about.
Too much
I have
too
to
much
take
caffeine,
medicine.
guys.
I have to
That's too
have
much caffeine.
TV
Okay,
running.
try a little less caffeine.
I need 6 different streams on as background noise.
You guys sleep? Yeah.
Sleep? What
Yeah.
is
I only sleep well if I go to bed at the exact same time every night and have a routine. So I understand.
creature of habit?
I understand. And it took me almost 40 years to figure that out. But I just used to have insomnia and just that was my life. So no, but like giving yourself a break is important because it can help you solve your current problems because it gives your brain that time to especially things that you do on repetition. They find the break is actually more important than the activity itself. They find that people who have paced themselves properly and take breaks. This happened to me. I figured this out in high school. I took a pottery class, and like I got better at pottery by not doing it. Right? Like I was struggling with like the whole like spinning the getting the wheel spinning and like trying to pull the clay up and make a pot or whatever. And then we had a break, a school break or whatever, probably a week off or something, and I came back and I could do it all of a sudden. I hadn't done it for a week. I couldn't do it before at all, but now I could, and it was because of the break. It gave my brain time to kind of figure out what I was doing wrong without even thinking about it. So you got to let things kind of cook.
Yeah, when you're doing something, when you're doing a task, especially if it's a repetitive task, which I hate to say it, like for a lot of streamers, there's a lot of repetitiveness on a stream. There's a lot of things that happen repeatedly on camera every time. And it's like when you're doing a repetitive task like that, it's very easy for your brain to get to this point where you're not giving it your full attention, right? You're not giving it your all your effort because it's something you just do over and over and over. Your brain naturally starts relegating that to the background, right? Because it just doesn't want to focus on the same thing all the time. So yeah, sometimes it's good to pause, refresh, walk away, take a night off. Yeah.
This is why you don't want to stream for like 20 hours a day, and just because you're not taking enough of a break, you're not giving yourself that time to rejuvenate and like let your brain figure things out. I mean, how many speedrunners have we watched struggle with the same one maneuver, trying to practice one maneuver for hours and hours and hours, and they can't do it, and then they take a day off and they come back and they can do it the first try. Like, if they hadn't maybe spent 20 hours trying to do it that one day, and they just took a break for a while, they maybe been able to get there a little faster.
As somebody who's practicing Sekiro to race Sword of Berserk, shout out there. Let me tell you, the third or fourth time you miss a jump, and you just get progressively more furious every time it happens. Yeah, no, and trust me, it's real.
Yeah. So I think breaks are more important than we think. I think there's a massive benefit to making sure that you don't overdo things, especially being live. It's so tempting to just, you get your stream set up and I'm going to go live and I'm going to be live for 12 hours or whatever. It's really tempting to do that.
Honestly, I'll tell you if you're fortunate enough to have it, having your streaming space separate from your living space is probably one of the best pieces of advice I could, in my entire 3, 4, 3.5 years of streaming, I would say, if possible, if you have the means to have your stream stuff set up and all that stuff separate from your living quarters and where you just do your stuff, it'll help you immensely to be able to separate between, hey, this is what I'm doing because I want to grow my stream and do that, versus, hey, this is just me and being offline, and being not connected to that world all the time.
It's just a good work from home tip anyway.
Yeah, if you can't,
that extends to kind of everything. Yeah.
So I can't do that because I live in this room and I stream from here.
Yeah.
But what I do in order to kind of mitigate that is my entire setup, my desk is kind of on arms and stuff, all of my lights, and I can tuck it all away. So when I'm not streaming and when I'm not making videos and stuff, I literally just turn my desk into as much of a normal desk, and cameras all get tucked away, everything goes away, lights all go away.
If you have to, throw a sheet over it.
Yeah.
Object permanence.
Object permanence, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like a baby, yeah.
All right. Okay.
So I think we should take a moment, just in case, to actually just sort of, we all kind of know the term burnout, but how do you actually recognize that you're starting to experience it? Because it's not like one day you're just like, oh, I'm burnt out, right? It creeps up, and people don't always notice that they're experiencing that process as it starts happening, right? It's super popular to talk about burnout, but I don't know if we always actually sit down and say, if you're experiencing these things, this is time to take space and really figure out what's causing these feelings, right?
I would say definitely if you get into a point, right, if you sit down and stream, and as you're going to turn on your stream, you start feeling dread, and you start feeling oh, I really don't want to do this, but I'm gonna push through. That's a sign. That's your body telling you that maybe you shouldn't do it. Maybe you should take a break, right? If the idea of going live causes you more anxiety than normal, that means there's something wrong, right?
Is this something we can do? Is there something we can say that would help people watch out for it, or is this one of those things where people just have to make the mistake and then try to do the preventative measures after the mistake? I'm not sure.
I find it easier for people to be able to prevent things once they know the symptoms of it, because then they can start to recognize it.
I think a lot of people overestimate their limits too.
Right. But there actually are assessment tools. You could even go online and find an assessment tool, right? There's physical as well as mental symptoms of burnout that people can experience, but they are kind of vague, right? So if you actually don't stop and do a self check-in, and I recommend doing that, right? having that just like negative outlook, like, oh, I'm gonna stream, but you know what? No one's gonna show up, and everything's gonna be hard, and I don't even like this game anyways.
Right. That's what I'm
Having
saying.
that like, yeah, having that self doubt, avoiding doing the work, or if it usually takes you 2 hours to edit a video and it's taking you like 6 just because you are just forcing yourself to do it, right? Feeling that physical and mental drain, like when you're trying to do the work, that usually means that you're experiencing that burnout happening around that job or task, right? And that's a time to, stop, pull back, and reestablish how to find the joy in what you're doing again.
Yeah.
And that's
Like
the
if
harder
you're
part, I think.
Yeah.
if you're streaming because you think you need to and not because you want to, then you need
If
to.
you catch yourself thinking like,
stop.
man, I really wish I didn't have to stream tonight. Hey,
Don't.
that's a sign, right? Maybe
Yeah.
you
just
shouldn't.
Don't. Don't.
Try
Choose
try
life.
not
I do that all the
streaming.
time. I don't stream. Yeah.
Try
Choose
try not
anything other
streaming
than
one
streaming,
day and then see how good that
How you
feels.
That's good advice. This is good. It's been about an hour or so. So let's. Do you have anything else you guys want to share, or should we wrap it up?
I think a lot of this has kind of revolved around the idea of taking care of yourself. Like, put yourself before your stream, and I think it kind of just branches off to. I think it's part of what I like to call content creator syndrome, where everybody feels like they have to do something all of the time, and they're putting what they're trying to make in front of their own self-care.
That's a good point.
Don't let capitalism get to you. You don't have to be productive 24/7.
Well, I think it's a symptom of the culture too. Like,
Yeah.
so many people, we just consume content all the time too. And so if you're like looking at TikTok or Instagram, and their shorts are even worse, right? All this short content, you see, like, you could spend half an hour and watch 30 to 60 different shorts that are all incredibly impressive, like the top tier content creators, and it's highly edited, and it's 30 seconds long or 15 seconds or a minute long or whatever it is. And it makes you feel like, oh, I got to get out there and do something too. I got to make a TikTok. I got to go make an Instagram or whatever it is, because we're all doing it. We're all on our phones, like, looking at all this content being created and thrown in our face. And then
And some of it's really bad, and we're like, hey, I could do better than that. And it'll only take me 30 seconds to do it and put it out
Watch
there.
me make a better TikTok than this schmuck.
yeah.
Like, because the barrier of entry is so low for all of these things, and we're already trying to do one of them, we think we can and should be doing all of them.
That's so
And
true.
then
But
that starts to trigger this, like, I
But
can
that's
start
also-
growing, and I can start, like, branching out in all of these places and doing all these things. And we kind of talked about it last time when we were talking about, like, the multi-streaming and all of that kind of stuff. Like, trying to be everywhere at once, I think, is a very dangerous mindset to be in that, like, trying to just make something for every platform that exists is gonna lead you to burnout faster than I think people would want to admit.
Yeah, because you're focusing on so many things all at once. And I would add, like, when you're taking a break, when you're trying to disconnect, right? When you're trying to reset, like, specifically when it comes to content creation, when it comes to streaming specifically, like, don't just it's not sometimes enough to just not stream. Sometimes don't go on Twitch at all. Don't watch other streams. Don't just enjoy something for yourself.
Go touch
away
grass.
from everyone else. Yeah, go touch grass. Yeah, for lack of a better word. Yeah. Go out and
Go do something
grab that
else.
grass. Yeah.
Find something that's like your getaway. Like, do the thing. Like, go watch anime. Go watch Korean dramas. Whatever it is, the thing that's like I always have, like, at night. I'm done. I turn off. I have an off mode, and I'm
turn your
watching.
phone off. Turn Twitter off. Turn
Yeah.
off Facebook. Whatever you're using.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's shockingly hard ask for people to do stuff like that, but I mean,
Shocking.
it's kind of it's a point that Meats touches on a lot, is having multiple things to fulfill yourself, and just find one of those other things. If you don't know what it is, like, do something nostalgic. nostalgia is an easy trigger to like make yourself happy again,
Mhm.
which is why it
Yeah.
sells so well. But like,
I might have purchased the 5th port of Skyrim that I owned about 2 nights ago and played it for like 2 or 3 hours just because I wanted to.
No matter what happens in life, Skyrim will be there for you
I-
on any device possible. Like, yeah,
Yes.
I think
If
we
all
all
else
own
fails,
multiple
guys.
games.
Play
well, like,
Skyrim.
go to your smart fridge and play Skyrim. Yeah.
Yeah.
there are some days where I don't even go into my office until like 5 p.m. because I spent the earlier part of the day like listening to terrible bands from 2008 and watching a goofy movie. Like,
Go if you have an animal, go pet your dog for a while. Go
Yeah.
pet your
yeah.
cat. Like
Yeah.
hang out with another living thing. You know what I mean?
True.
Get a plant if you have to. Talk to
Talk
like
to your
people always say
plant.
that. Talk to a plant. No, seriously, talk to a plant.
Yeah. Plants.
I
plants
guarantee
deserve
you
love
it'll
too.
do wonders for your mental state.
Get a worry doll. Talk to something.
But if the plant starts talking back, think about taking a break. Just step back from that for a bit.
Don't regret taking breaks.
Yeah,
Treat
that
it
too.
as an opportunity to refresh, to come back with the energy that you want to bring, right? So I think people do struggle with regret, and who does regret help? Nobody,
True.
right?
Yeah.
Regret is not helpful. So take it as I needed this time. Even if you lumped on the couch for an evening, that's okay. That's probably exactly what you needed. As long as you're functioning okay overall and it's not turning into something worse, right? But part of taking those breaks, taking those days to just lump on the couch or go for a walk is to prevent worse things from happening. So give yourself that kindness, right? Don't regret making those decisions because they were the decisions that you needed to make at that time. And that's okay.
yeah,
It's okay.
you're probably not as suave as you think you are, and you're not hiding it from the people watching. So take a break and refresh. It'll be good for you and your stream when you come back.
Yeah.
I like it. That's what we're going out on. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening to the podcast. You can catch us on Spotify and infinitequality.live if you guys are interested in our community, if you want to join the community Discord. Thank you so much. We'll see you in the next one.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the bell notification. Thanks for being here.
Oh, I love the ASMR segment of this podcast. Take breaks. That probably didn't come through.